In 1994, Derrick McManus was shot 14 times in 5 seconds while a police officer in the South Australian Special Tasks and Rescue Group, known as STAR Group. Incredibly, after 2 years of rehabilitation, Derrick returned to full duties within STAR Group. Since that time, he's gone on to become an international speaker in the areas of never say die and using your inner strength to overcome challenges. And I'm delighted to say that Derrick is with us today. Derrick, thanks for joining me.
Thank you, and I'm delighted to be here.
You were truly given a second chance. There can be no doubt about that. I mean, what's driven you since that shooting in 1994 to make the most of that second chance?
I have been given a second chance, but I don't treat it as a second chance. I honestly believe that I was living my life the same before the shooting as I do now. I've always looked at life and believed it needs to be lived to the fullest, and it's about planning for tomorrow but living for today as well. So you've got to keep that balance in perspective, and my whole life has always been about living on the edge, enjoying the passion, enjoying the adrenaline that comes with doing the things that excites me, but I don't see myself as a risk taker as much as I'm a risk manager.
After you were shot, you were lying on the ground for 3 hours waiting for help, not knowing really what was going on. You were moving from consciousness to unconsciousness. Can you recall what you were thinking about during those 3 hours?
I was lying on the ground for 3 hours and fully conscious for 2 hours 45, and calm, rational, and going through already pre-planned thought processes. And I call it my contingency plan, and I believe everybody has those. But I had a very clear contingency plan. 4 things that I needed to do initially was just to control panic. Don't let panic control the situation. Control shock. Don't let shock control my body. Slow down my heart rate, slow down my breathing. And if I could control those 4 things, it would slow down my rate of bleeding. Now, that was my pre-planned contingency plan, to be able to control the situation, give myself the best outcome I possibly could. But what I found is, while I was on the ground, once I had those things under control, I then started looking at what the future might hold for me. What might the outcomes of this situation be? And the one thing that drove me was thinking about my family and just wanting to be able to get back to my 4 children and be able to interact with them at whatever level I could.
Yeah. The man who shot you 14 times, Tony Grossman, what's your attitude towards him?
A lot of people find it very strange that I don't have any want of retribution or revenge. I'm lucky to the extent that he didn't actually shoot Derrick McManus. He shot the cop that was walking down the side of the house. It just happened to be Derrick McManus. So there is that sort of third-party removal that he was shooting a cop. It wasn't a very personal thing. There are certainly things that have happened since that he has done that has changed my interactions with him and how I think he views it. But I still don't have any want of retribution or revenge. And I think I'm fortunate that way, because I am the sort of person, if I wanted to make these things happen, I would find a way. I may not do it myself, but I would find a way to make it happen. And I think if I wanted retribution and revenge and I was focused on trying to make that happen, I'd be so focused on that side, I wouldn't have been able to look at how I could improve my life and improve my relationships, improve my health and all those things, because my focus would have been elsewhere. So I'm very fortunate in that way that I was able to look at this and just let that go. Is there forgiveness there? No, I don't believe there's forgiveness, because that man has never accepted responsibility for his actions. And I don't feel there's a need for me to give forgiveness. And part of that comes from the fact that I accept responsibility for the choices that I have made in my life. I made choices to become a police officer, go into STAR Group, become a sniper, a diver, train with the SAS and counter-terrorism. So I made choices that put me in a circumstance where it might happen. So I look at it and I say, I need to take responsibility for those choices and the consequences. And his action certainly caused it, but I put myself in a situation where it could happen. So essentially I just look at myself and say, how could I do it better next time? And what do I need to learn from it?
And what do you think allows some people to seize that approach and live it and some not?
I believe it's an inner confidence, and that comes from passion. When you are doing something that you are passionate about, and particularly if it's for other people, if we're doing things that we are just looking to prove something to someone else or do it to show other people that we are this good, and it's not something that is congruent with our personality, we don't have the same drive.
The advertising agency business in all its forms is a high pressure business and extremely competitive. Talk to us about that inner strength, that ability to overcome challenges, because it's certainly something that most agency people are confronted with almost every day. How are they going to overcome today's or next week's challenges?
Always know what there is to look forward to for you and chase that sense of optimism. If there's no sense of optimism, there's no reward for effort, you won't put the effort in. Believe in your ability to influence it. Right? There are lots of things that influence our lives, from governments to partners to bosses to all those things. But the choices we make and the actions we take should be the greatest influence in how things affect us. The planning, having some idea of what you're going to deal with, some idea of how you're going to deal with it, but that comes from having strong confronting conversations with yourself about the choices you are making and accepting responsibility for those choices. And then saying, as a result of that choice, this consequence may happen. If that happens, how will I deal with it? And be prepared to ask for support.
Derrick, thanks for joining me today. It's been terrific, and congratulations on all your success and indeed your community service. You should be congratulated for everything you've done.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate it, Chris.
Thanks for joining us.